afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alan Wong. I'm a media specialist and spokesperson for Contra Costa County's Employment and Human Services Department. I also happen to be your MC for today's 2018 Rebuilding Lives Luncheon. Let's give yourselves a round of applause. I want to thank you all for being here and supporting a very critical need in our county. All of you are our honored guests, and we'd like to recognize all of you. So to start off, I'd like to introduce the committee chair for this year's Rebuilding Lives Planning Committee and member of STAN's Board of Directors. Will you please welcome Vice President of Farmers and Merchants Bank, Margot Stanford.
Good morning. Thank you, Alan. We are so glad you guys are here today. Rebuilding Lives is an opportunity to raise awareness about the issue of domestic violence in our community and to raise funds for the services STAN provides. As the chair of this year's event committee, it is my honor to acknowledge the following individuals and groups. Today was made possible by the generosity of our sponsors. If you could please hold your applause till the end. Thank you to our presenting sponsor, the Dean and Margaret Lesher Foundation. Our benefactor sponsor, APM Cares, Jamel and Tom Perkins, John Muir Health, and Miller Star Regalia. Our leader sponsors, you guys don't listen very well. AT&T, Charles Schwab Walnut Creek, Darlene Espinoza, Dudum Real Estate Group, F&M Bank, 5 Point, Mary Drennan in honor of Joe Mullen Jr., Joe Saba, JVM Lending, Kaiser Permanente Diablo Area, Kitty Cole and Associates, Travis Credit Union, and Wells Fargo. Right now. Second, we have an amazing, amazing group of attendees here today, and I want to let you all know who's here with you. In the room today are the following policymakers and community leaders. Policymakers, will you stand and please stay standing while I introduce you? And again, please hold your applause. Ellen Tauscher, former U.S. Representative, 10th District. The office of Marc Desaulniers, U.S. Representative, 11th District. Catherine Baker, State Assembly, 16th District. Tim Grayson, State Assembly, 14th District. Office of Jackie Irwin, State Assembly, 44th District. District 2 Supervisor, Candace Anderson. District 3 Supervisor, Diane Burgess. District 4 Supervisor, Karen Mitchoff. Office of the District Attorney, Dinah Beckton. City of Clayton Council Member, Julie Pierce. City of Concord Mayor, Edie Burson. City of Danville Vice Mayor, Robert Storer. City of Orinda Mayor, Amy Worth. City of Walnut Creek Mayor Pro Tem, Cindy Silva. And City of Walnut Creek Council Member, Luella Haskew. Thank you. Law enforcement. Antioch Police Department, Chief Brooks. Brentwood Police Department, Chief Hansen, Lieutenant Ogrodnik, and Captain Silva. Please stand. Clayton Police Department, Chief Warren. Concord Police Department, Captain Roach. Danville Police Department, Chief Shields. El Cerrito Police Department, Captain De La Campa. Martinez Police Department, Chief Supal, Sergeant Moore, and Detectives Lexi and Williamson. Oakley Police Department, Chief Thorson. Pinole Police Department, Chief Gang, and Lieutenants Avery and Alameda. If you guys could please stand up so we can recognize you. And I still have more. Pittsburgh Police Department, Chief Addington, and Captains Albanese and Wentz. Pleasant Hill Police Department, Chief Hill, Sergeant Leonard, and Detective Warman. Richmond Police Department, Chief Brown. San Pablo Police Department, Chief Rahman and Lieutenants Ganks and Buber. Walnut Creek Police Department, Captain Hill. Thank you guys so much. And finally, to our community partners, Alliance to End Abuse Initiative, Contra Costa County Employment and Human Services Department, Contra Costa County Probation Department, Contra Costa Family Justice Centers, First 5 Contra Costa, John F. Kennedy University, and Opportunity Junction. Also with us are our loyal donors. We would not have made it through tough times without you. And we have our special event and in-kind donors. Thank you so much for supporting RBL, even though some of you couldn't be with us today. And you'll see that list in your bags. New friends, we appreciate your presence today. We need you. We need you to share the importance of the issue of domestic violence and family violence with your circle of influence. Thank you for joining us today. And last, our last acknowledgements, and please stand when I read your group. Thank you to Stan's Board of Directors. Please stand, the board. Our previous board presidents, please stand. We have previous board presidents here. Thank you. Our Rebuilding Lives 2018 Event Committee. If we could please stand. Do we have anyone here? I know it's more than me. Our amazing stand staff, please stand. And finally, and most importantly, they don't get enough recognition, our tireless volunteers. Please stand up. Please keep working, but please stand up. All right, and before I hand the podium back to Alan, and in keeping with the tradition of trauma-informed service provision, I want to let you know that we have a clinical staff member on site today and a space to meet if you find you are triggered by anything that you hear today. Robin, can you raise your hand, please? All right, so there you go. Thank you so much, and enjoy your lunch.
Thank you, Margot. We have a few changes on our timeline today, so please don't get too tied to that timeline. We want to thank Stevens Printing for that. We are very fortunate to have a special guest with us today, and she has graciously agreed to say a few words about the importance of our event today. Please help me in welcoming former U.S. Representative of the 10th District and Contra Costa's very own Ellen Tauscher.
Hi, everyone. It's so nice to be here. I live in Alamo now. I lived in Alamo when I represented you in the Congress, but I would only visit. But now I live here all the time, and whenever this lunch happened, I think I chaired this lunch in 1993 or 1994, and it was the first time we actually raised over $100,000 at this event. But subsequently, when I went to Congress in 1996, the event was always during the week, and I was in Washington. And so it's great to be here. I can't tell you how proud I am of what Stan has done and remains deep in my heart as a group that has pioneered in so many ways very, very innovative programming for women and children and families that are victims of domestic violence. In the Congress, I was able to vote for the bill against Violence Against Women Act. But these issues always are about home. They're always about the community. That's really where the best services are delivered, and that's where families get to heal again and get to move on and hopefully not only survive, but recover. And so I'm so proud of all of you for your consistent and steadfast sponsorship of STAND. And I'm so proud of all of the leadership that it has continuously recruited and I'm just glad to be home. So it's so nice to see you, and thank you for having me.
Thank you, Ellen. And I'd now like to introduce our current and extraordinary CEO of STAND. She has the passion and drive for this job. It's the kind of things that we need for a person who's going to command this organization. She calls this her dream job. Will you please welcome Ms. Rhonda James?
I was supposed to enter stage left, so I'm not going to do it that way. So, hi, good morning. So glad you're here, and I'm so glad you're already served lunch. So as I walked in today, I had an interesting experience. I was so happy I finally got my hair to do the thing I wanted it to do. I walked in, and one of our really wonderful fresh-faced volunteers said, "Are you here for today's STAND luncheon?" And I said, "Indeed, I am." So either I haven't done a good job making sure that I know every face, or I've brushed my hair for the first time this month. So thank you for joining us this year. So I'm going to be up here for about 5 or 6 minutes and talking with Alan, talking about, how it's always butterfly time. He said, look, you got 5 or 6 minutes of their rapt attention. Rock it, use it, get your point across. So what I want to tell you a little bit about is what we've been doing and what we're going to commit to doing between now and the next time we see you next year on the 17th. We've already booked the joint. So our ethics in the field, and indeed the very funding that supports most of our early work, requires that we keep the victim at the center of everything we do. So we talk to her or him or them often. We ask them lots of questions. We have focus groups. We have exit surveys. It's a delicate task because we're trying to figure out what they want and what they need, balancing with what the community thinks they want and what it needs and what the law tells us we must do. So we're constantly on that razor's edge. Even the word we use to describe those we serve: victim, survivor, she who's been harmed, he who's been harmed, they who have been harmed, victims of family violence, interpersonal violence, you name it. There's so many controversial terms. So what we do and what we have to do is we choose to name her that which she tells us she is. So you'll hear us talking about survivors and victims interrelated. So when we talk to our survivors, there's 2 things they tell us they want. 2 things. So think about it for a second if you can think about what that might be, but you might be surprised. Our victims, our survivors tell us every day and every time we ask them, almost without fail, they want 2 things. They want you to help the person who hurt them, whether we like it or not, whether I feel it's the right thing or not. Want us to help the person who's hurt them, help my partner stop hitting. Tall order. The other thing you might guess, help my children. Help my children not be involved in this kind of abuse in the future, and help them heal from what they've witnessed or been victim of. So the only 2 simple things they ask of us. Not much, right? So, of course, we're going to provide shelter. We're going to continue to provide a response to those 15,000 calls for help, assistance, and referral every year. But aside from that, we're being stretched by what they ask us to do every day. And we're being stretched by our partners as well. So while we're doing all that amazing intervention work that we've always done, that we've done since Rolly Mullen was at the lead during Gloria Sandoval's time and all the interim executive directors who helped patch things through over the last 42 years, we're going to continue to do that work seamlessly. Well, maybe not seamlessly. Some of our partners will tell you sometimes we have challenges. We all do. But what we can tell you is that this time next year, we are committing to you to come back to you to talk to you about the way that we've addressed the first request from our survivors. We're unpacking and unlocking our curriculum for our 52-week batterers intervention, domestic violence treatment program, those who cause harm, men's violence program, again, controversial words. But what we're committed to do is telling you this time next year how we've progressed on one of those requests from our survivors, and that is help my partner. Again, it doesn't matter what I want, it doesn't matter what any of us want. What matters is what the victim wants and what the victim needs. And what most victims want is the violence to stop and the perpetrator to get well. Today, however, and I'll finish up with this part, I'm going to tell you what we have really been able to sink our teeth into, and that's helping children heal. So many of you may not know, and I hear a lot of times board members will say to me, people don't know that we serve children. And I, of course, I'm aghast. I can't imagine that you've ever spoken to me and don't know every single thing about me and what we do at STAND. We serve a tremendous amount of children and youth. We always have. We serve thousands of teens in our leadership programs, in our curriculum-based, gender-based prevention programs. We have a huge presence in West County. We're doing an amazing, lovely second year with Kaiser Permanente, doing a resiliency grant at Pittsburgh High, working on school culture, working on the environment of post-trauma, working with the students at the high school as well as their teachers, classified personnel, and all of our staff. And that's funded, again, by Kaiser Permanente. So those are an example of what we're doing in the external world. We're not in enough places because it's funding-based, but we're going to continue. The other thing I don't know if you know about, and it might not be as obvious, is the work that we do in our clinics and our counseling centers. We have trauma-based, highly trained clinicians working from a trauma-focused position, working with hundreds of youth who are victims of domestic violence as a witness, as exposure in their own trauma as well. Those clinics are in Antioch, in Concord, and we also have them nearby on our shelter campus, so for easy access for those living in an emergency and transitional housing. Also in our emergency and transitional housing, we have what's called the Rainbow Room, and this is where I'm going to finish up. In our Rainbow Room, we see really little kids, a lot of kids who don't go to school yet, but their moms and sometimes their dads are in shelter. They're oftentimes healing from what they've witnessed. They've also oftentimes healing from just generations of us not stopping the violence in their family. So what we did before we put our lunch together is we had an exercise in our Rainbow Room, and we asked the really littles to answer 2 questions for us. We asked them to answer, what are you thankful for? And what do you like? So they always like the staff member. They think she's kind of a minor rock star. And so what they did is prepared a card for you. So I'm going to ask you to continue into your lunch by the table captain or whoever is your spontaneous leader at your table to take a look at the card that has your number on it and open it up and share with your table what these young people have said to you today. So this is their thank you for coming to lunch. You make their Rainbow Room possible. I have to tell you, my favorite card was the one that I got where what they like is applesauce. I'm a big fan myself. And what they want more of is puppy days. Who doesn't want that, right? So pull your card down, share it with your table. Come talk to me today. Come see us. Let us take you for a tour. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to our partners. We'll see you again next year.
Thank you, Rhonda James, STAND CEO. And now it's time to award this year's Rolly Mullen Award recipient. And to bestow that honor, I'd like to introduce you to this year's current board chair. She is a fierce advocate for the agency. She has been for 29 years. Also accompanying her will be last year's recipient of the Rolly Mullen Award. She's also a 29-year volunteer. Will you please welcome the current board chair, Kitty Cole, and last year's recipient, Angie Coffey.
Thank you, Alan. Before we start, you know how every one of these events has a snafu? Well, we had a little snafu, and it happens to do with this gal who's right next to me. I specifically looked over the last few days and made sure that she would get mentioned as a sponsor, and we somehow admitted it. Angie Coffey has been a 29-year volunteer and board member with me, and we missed her name, but she has been my dear friend, and if I ever need anything, who do I call? Angie. So I just want to say thank you for your sponsorship today. You got omitted, and we're making a big deal over it. Maybe that was a gift. Okay, good.
Someone saw coffee and thought it was just an order.
Oh, that's right, Angie Coffey. Okay, so the Rolly Mullen Award has been given out to people over the years, the last 26 years, by the way, and the criteria is very deep and vast, and I'm going to read you just a little bit of it. So the award goes to somebody who's been a champion, who has a significant personal involvement in the cause and the agency, somebody who has served as a role model. By the way, Angie is a past recipient, which means last year. Thank you so much again. Okay, good for your work. Someone who's creative, professional, committed, and a champion for our cause. So that just explains a little bit of how we choose the person, and we take a long time doing so, by the way. Angie's going to tell you a little story about our recipient, and then I'm going to tell you an additional short story.
It is truly a thrill for me to co-present this award to my dear friend, Marcia Servetnik. Marcia was very close to Roly Mullen, and having been a 38-year volunteer with STAND, this is just amazingly special and appropriate, so appropriate. Marcia is a generous spirit and epitomizes the criteria of this award, and there are two in particular that stand out: champion and committed. And Marcia has been a committed champion to STAND, as I mentioned, for almost 40 years. This luncheon was Marcia's vision to help us fund our traditional housing center 25 years ago. And what a wonderful, wonderful time we had with Elaine and Barry Taylor, first year, Ellen Tauscher, second year, and I think I did it the next 3 years. And then it was like gum on my shoe. I couldn't get rid of it. I just loved it so much. So anyway, your commitment, Marcia, is just such a joy to share this award with you. So thank you.
So, a quick story. Marcia's going to start walking up here in a minute, and I want to tell you 2 or 3 things. We consider her one of the mothers of domestic violence and the movement in Contra Costa. Angie is also one of the mothers, and there are many other mothers in the room that have worked with us over the years. And here are my little stories. And Marcia actually heard me say this earlier today, but I was hoping it would be a surprise. First of all, she brought us RBL, Rebuilding Lives is what we call it, RBL. Second, I always noticed that when we went to her for something, she said yes. And a lot of times volunteers get overused and overworked, and she said yes to everything we've ever asked. And I appreciate you so much for that alone. And third, this is the part that is just so precious to me. She always worked with us without ego. She worked with us without any agenda. She worked with us, and she would give her opinion very, very quietly, but very, I would say, quietly, forcefully. And if you haven't heard her speak before, in her little cute Minnesota accent, and it was really fun. And I just think you have been our champion for so long. I am thrilled to give you this award. So.
I'm not really ducking down. I'm just getting out a couple things to remind me. You know, it's been 25 years, so. And maybe I should say, yeah, you betcha. Thank you for the wonderful comments. Coal and coffee, those 2 women, if you have not worked with them, you don't know their names, then let me tell you, you all need to get out more. They're fabulous. Thank you, ladies, so much. Also, Kitty and the board of directors and Rhonda James, all jewels to me. To be acknowledged as the original architect of RBL in itself is so appreciated. But to be given the Roly Mullen Award, a woman who was a marvelous mentor and a caring friend to me, truly grabs my heart. I'm not certain who said this, but I read that when one talks of those that have died, they live on. To be given this leadership award named after Roly Mullen allows me to embrace her many times, her spirited wisdom again and again to help share Roly's dream to eliminate family violence. When I was told I would be receiving this award, those of you that know me would think, what? Because I became speechless. Really, I'm so honored. And then a flood of memories came back to this first luncheon, right here at the Concord Hilton, November 4th, 1993. Whoa. So I want to just, if you'll bear with me, to go down memory lane. I really want to just bring up a few things, and along the way, thank some very special people who I'm delighted are in this room today. So we decided, yes, we had to find a way to fund and get a capital campaign started because we wanted to provide emergency and transitional housing for battered women and their children. In 1993 dollars, at that time, we needed to raise $1.75 million. So looking for an idea, it came but borrowed. It wasn't initial. I do like the architect term, but it came from a friend in Seattle where she said they would either do a breakfast or a lunch, have table hosts or table captains, invite 7 friends and have an expectation of at least $100 contribution. And that money to educate, inform, celebrate while raising funds seemed like a really good idea. And it seems to have been. That first luncheon, we were so blessed. We had 2 chairmen, Barry and Elaine Taylor, along with Margaret Lesher, who led the way with very, very generous capital campaign gifts. Mrs. Ken Hoffman underwrote the first luncheon, and I think a few after that, so all the monies went to the capital campaign. As we were meeting to decide on the program for that day, we heard a very upsetting, emotional 911 tape of a young girl calling the police for help. Well, that, again, 25 years ago, we were not too sure we should play that at the luncheon. And then we decided we're going over and check out what Elaine Taylor might think of it. And then we did. Rolly Unisazani, who was vice president of the board at that time, and I went over. We played the tape for Elaine, and she just looked at us and said, "Well, isn't that what it's all about?" Yes, it is. And thank you, Elaine, for your sage advice, your leadership, your generous support, and especially for attending today so we can give you another round of deserved applause. Also, how great, and I was able to give her a hug earlier, Elaine Tauscher. Our first leadership award was established also 25 years ago in 1993, and it was presented to Senator Dianne Feinstein. She was unable to attend, so Ellen Tauscher accepted the award on behalf of Senator Feinstein. Then, you know, you never get away, so it was just too good to be true. And yes, Ellen, you were our second chairperson in 1994, October 26th of 1994. By this time, a 50,441 square foot site to provide transitional housing had been acquired. Also, in just a year's time, we had raised $800,000 towards our goal of $1.75 million. We were truly on our way to rebuilding lives with a safe transitional house. I reunited again with Ellen. She's now a congresswoman. I'm still a volunteer, happy to be, chairing RBL 2002. Stan would be presenting the Rolly Mullen Award to an organization for the first time, and Congresswoman Tauscher was there again to present the award. Ellen, thank you for always being there again and again. And if anyone, you might remember, but the first organization, also close to my heart, Junior League of Oakland East Bay. In 1981, domestic violence was finally being recognized as a very serious issue. And actually, our dear philanthropic angel, Margaret Lesher, used the word disease. It was a horrid disease. Junior League of Oakland East Bay became involved in 81-82 with a limited volunteer project, along with writing a position statement on domestic violence. By 2002, JLOEB, as it's called, had provided hundreds of volunteer hours, $100,000 in donations to STAND. Along with this, they provided legal advice, a speaker's bureau, outdoor play yard in the shelter, and established a child care center for children from families that experienced domestic violence. So as a longtime member of that organization, I have such pride to announce that was the first of its kind in the nation. Thank you to all you dedicated and determined supporters, to you longtime benefactors, terrific table captains, to all the volunteers and STAND staff. Welcome to you that are new to RBL. We hope you will leave with more awareness to the challenges of breaking the cycle of violence. And as I conclude, a very, very sincere salute to the women and men in blue back there. Thank you so very much to our law enforcement officers. And I will just add, as many of you know, when an officer is called to a domestic violence situation, it's one of the most dangerous calls they can respond to. Thank you again.
Thank you for your service, Marcia. Our keynote speaker today is a wealth advisor and money coach. She dedicates her life to empowering women through the use and direction of their personal finances based on their emotions around money. She is also an East County resident, and she also is a domestic violence survivor. At the time of her tragic incident in 1993, there were far fewer domestic violence protocols in place to help the valiant efforts of our law enforcement. However, because of her tragedy, a lot has changed, and she's here to tell her story. Will you please welcome Miss Jennifer Jost.
A lot bigger than I thought. A bright, shiny diamond. A diamond ring. That's usually the first promise of a life together. I had a friend that said, I got a guy for you to meet. You're gonna love him. He's a successful business owner, he has a great smile, and he's so much fun. Walking to meet him the first day, I knew my life was gonna change. And then we had our first date, and that first kiss that just ignites your whole body and you're so excited. And immediately I go to a life with him, right? We've seen our fairy tales. We had a date, that means we're getting married. We had a blast. He was just so fun. And he had a big family, which was great. And we had events every weekend. It was just wonderful. No one seemed to mind his excessive drinking because he was always the life of the party. The fun guy. The guy that you always want to invite because you know your party is going to be successful if he's there. So when he wanted to marry me at my age of 19, I felt very fortunate. I felt like I'm gonna have someone there by my side for the rest of my life. I'm gonna have somebody to love, adore, and cherish me. And he did. He worshiped me. He put me on a pedestal. I thought it was amazing. And we had so much fun. I did not even notice that the controlling behavior and the possessiveness was even a red flag. Our fairy tales don't tell us, after that first kiss, look out, because it's not always that way. I didn't trust my gut. I didn't see the flags. And he would check my pockets when I came home. He would check all my calls. He would make sure where I was at all times. I thought that was love. I thought he was showing me how awesome I was. I remember driving in a car and I couldn't even look out the window because he thought I'd be checking out somebody in the car next to me. I didn't even know that was not okay. I had my son, Nicholas, at the age of 21, and my daughter, Cherie, 3 years later. And we had, aren't they cute? We had a lot of years. And it looked like the American dream on the outside. We had the big house, we had 2, expensive cars, and we had a really good time all the time. And I was a great mom. I was in the school and the sports and taking them everywhere and doing everything with them, and it was amazing. It was so fun. So on the outside, we looked perfect. On the inside, I literally just couldn't breathe. Can anyone relate to that? Do you ever get to a point where you just can't breathe? So I searched out therapy. Any therapists in the room? Thank you, thank you, thank you. I found a church group, great community. I finally got the courage to ask for a divorce. He didn't take it well. He didn't even accept it. I tried to ask his family, who were my best friends at the time. They completely distanced themselves from me. I was alone now. And they weren't believing me about his behavior. I could just see it in his eyes. When I asked for a divorce, it's like he flipped a switch. And I see a few head nods. You understand what I'm talking about, that flip of the switch. So after several months in couples counseling, I moved to my own bedroom. This man that I had been with for years, that at the time was a great dad, and he was supposed to love me, and I trusted him. He would walk around that bed at night with a gun in his hand. I just lied there tormented, and I would just squeeze my eyes so tight and just pray for it to go away. I was living in my own personal private hell. After several months, his family finally talked him into moving out. We were separated. I could breathe, I thought. So I filed for divorce. I took the next step. He showed up at the house one morning and said, "I'm taking the kids to school." So Nicholas and Cherie never made it to school that day. He actually kept them the whole weekend. And since he kept the whereabouts from me, that was considered kidnapping. He did bring them back Sunday evening. I went to court immediately, and I won. Thank you for everyone in court and that whole crazy process. So I got full custody, and he got supervised visitation. After several months, I allowed his family to take my children on vacation with him. I warned them about his behavior. I told them everything that was happening. And I was at a community event on July 10th, 1993, actually. And he comes walking in with my 2 kids. And I'm there with a companion, and he's shouting foul things, threatening. So we take off and go straight to the police department. First responders, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for everything that you do. Unfortunately, they couldn't really do much at that time back in '93. And that day was a crazy day. So I called my attorney, and she said, first thing Monday morning, we're going back to court. You're going to be fine. Unfortunately, Monday morning never came. The next morning, I was on my way to work, and he pulled up and had my daughter on his lap, my 5-year-old daughter, Cherie, with a gun to her head. and said, "Get in the car." He took us all back to our home and held me hostage for an hour. I was late for work, so my employees were calling. The phone was going off the hook. He let me go, and he kept my children in that home. I went straight to the police. Thank God they were there. I'd like to hear my 911 call, actually, now that you mentioned the calls. This started an 11-hour standoff. I was 2 houses over at a neighbor's house, and the negotiator would bring me up every so often to try to negotiate, release and everything that they do. And then after 11 hours, the negotiator was given an order to give him a 10-minute ultimatum. In 10 minutes, 3 shots were fired. He took the lives of both of my children, Nicholas and Cherie Souza, and he killed himself in my master closet. The negotiator had to come over and tell me what happened. We were all so completely, obviously, devastated. We had no idea that this was even a possibility in 1993. Like, it just did not happen in our little town. I saw the ambulances pull up. I saw my kids go. In the back of my head, they're just hurt. So thank God for my friends, literally carried me to each hospital. I had to go to 2 hospitals, and that's when the doctors told me that they were dead. And I identified both of my children. I was 29 years old, and I had to start my life completely over. I hope there's Kleenex up here. Love you volunteers. Humor's healing too, did you know that? So, I didn't even really have a reason to live. I didn't even have a reason to breathe, besides not to give my mother the pain that I have. So I grasped at anything. My therapist, I did dream workshops, psychics, hypnosis. Mind you, I'm 29. And I tried to make sense of it. And my therapist told me, you need to go talk to someone who can understand what you've been through. So I found an amazing grief group with parents who've lost children. Saved my life. I decided during that time in that grief group that I was going to live. Not only was I going to live, but I was going to live with grace through my grief, and I was going to live with intention, because I just knew I was here for a reason. I had no idea what it was. I just knew that I was here for a reason, and I took a stand, and I decided to live. When Rhonda called me to come speak, I heard her say, "Hi, this is Rhonda James. I'd love you to come tell your story." That's all I heard. She talked for I don't even know how long. Sorry, Rhonda. I love you, man. But I just felt like it was a full circle. I was like, yes, I want to come tell my story. I want to help save lives. I'm honoring my children every time I tell our story. They're here with me. They're with me every day. They're here right now. So if you get a glass that's knocked over or something, it's Nicholas. He was always funny that way. But they're with me all the time. And I just want to say that I would not be here right now if it wasn't for organizations like STAND. Victims of domestic violence, or in my case, it was an emotional also. He actually only pushed me one time. I left for a week, and when I came back, he apologized, and he never physically abused me again. It was all emotional. It was all seductive slow, gradual, and invisible. And when we're in that place, it's like a deep, dark hole, and we have no idea how to get out. And communities and organizations such as Stand that can understand what we're going through and give us a place to rebuild our lives is so important. There's no way that I could be here right now if I did not have the help from everyone else. I did rebuild my life. I have 2 beautiful children, Journey and Parker. I don't think I even told them I was doing this today. And it's amazing. I know I'm living my life with intention every single day. I am here to help women, inspire, motivate, empower, live a joyous, fun-filled life full of love and joy. And I know that. We need Stand. We need you. We need law enforcement to work together with us. We need everyone to help every person who is stuck in this deep, dark hole and they have no idea how to get out. I want to thank you so much for letting me show my beautiful children. Can you see those pictures that are there? That was a crazy outfit back in the 80s with all those colors, wasn't it? Just saying, it was cute then. So I just want to thank you so much for allowing me to share my children with you and to share my story. I'd be happy to speak with you after the luncheon if this brings up anything for anyone. And I'm so grateful to have this place and to have everyone working together to help all of anyone who's stuck on our deep, dark hole. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jennifer, for sharing your story and explaining the importance of organizations like this and the people who support them, just like all of you who are here today. Now I'd like to bring back Miss Kitty Cole.
I'd like to just add a special thank you to Jennifer for sharing, first of all, her tragic story, but also sharing how she's rebuilt her life. Can we just give her one more acknowledgement? That was terrific. Now I'd like you to join me in silent testimony to all of those who've experienced domestic violence. I'm going to ask you to stand if the questions that I ask apply to you, and there'll be 3 questions. Before I do that, I'd like you to think about and show respect for those who are going to stand after the very first question. That question is going to ask them if they experienced domestic violence. And as a domestic violence survivor myself, I know how hard it is to actually say that in public. It can be embarrassing, it can be gut-wrenching, frightening to actually be public about it. So if somebody stands up near you, I'd like you to hold their hand, smile, let them know that you're here for them, because it's very hard to do this. Here's the first question. Please stand if you're a survivor of family violence, physical, emotional, as Jennifer said, mental or sexual assault by a spouse, a partner, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, or a parent. Please stand. Thank you so much. Please remain standing. Please stand if a family member has experienced violence by someone close who was supposed to love you. And third, please stand if you know someone who has experienced violence by someone, again, close to him or her, who was supposed to love them. And last, if you are still seated, please stand to support all of those in the room and elsewhere in this county and the world who have experienced domestic violence. Thank you so much. You may be seated. So we've been pulling on your heartstrings for the last hour or so, and mine personally is quite shaken by our story. Again, thank you, Jennifer. I'm just going to go directly into the ask. In the center of your tables are donation forms. It's in an envelope. If the table captains would please pick up those envelopes, and you are going to be looking for a form, and if you could hand those forms out to each one of your guests. Before we do that, I just want to tell you something that's happened in the last 30 days. Many of you have seen me up here before. I was here last year and the year before, but I've been here about 25 years in a row, and I'm kind of a bold, twist your arm kind of person. I want to tell you something I did, and I'm proud of it. I called two of our very large donors, and I asked them to increase their amount annually by 25%. And I'd like to acknowledge them because they both said yes right away without any pushback, without anything, and they are both here today. Heejin Kim, at my table, if you would stand. And Heejin is the owner of HVM Lending. And Heejin is my friend, my colleague, and a very generous person. And the other one is Kelly Allen. I believe you're over here, Kelly. There you are. And Kelly is the manager of, God, I'm going blank, Diversified Capital, which is part of American Pacific Mortgage, and also the donor of APM Cares. She got that extra additional funds. I want to acknowledge these two extraordinary women and give them a big hand, please. And one more thing before you fill out your forms. I'd like you to know something that the event committee and Rhonda actually pointed out to me. It was wonderful. We looked at our goal for this event, and if everybody in the room made a gift of $156, and I'm going to say that's all, $156 or more today, we will actually be able to serve the 15,000 people that we serve every year because of the donations coming in at this event. So $156. It's not so much, is it? Say no. No, thank you. Okay. All right, now let's go through a couple things. While you're pulling out your checkbook or maybe your credit card, just want to tell you a couple things. You may, and this is, I love this phrase, by the way, you may become one of our heroes or our sheroes. Rhonda made up this term a few days ago, and I said, I'm going to tell everybody that, so it's a she-hero. Do you guys like it? Let's pass it on. It's a good phrase. I liked it. Okay, you may pay by credit card or check, and if your company, by the way, matches, please indicate that that's on the form. That's important for us to know. Your donation today, not the luncheon so much, but this is 100% deductible. Please fill out the card completely, making sure you've got your email, your address, your phone number, all those things, because every little bit counts. We'll have to contact you if we don't have every piece of information. When you're finished, please take the yellow copy, give the white copy back to your table captain, have them put that back into the envelope. And table captains, we're going to have a staff member come around right when the event ends to pick those up from you. And I just wanted to remind you that your contribution today goes towards unrestricted operating funds, which we are in great need of every year. And if you're interested in volunteering, you might have noticed at the bottom of the form, you can volunteer by being part of the D&M, which is called Development and Marketing Committee. You can contact us about hosting a party. We call these little stand parties. We do these several times a year. Or if you're interested in volunteering in some other way, like assisting at this kind of an event, please let us know that. And last, you can also help. Does everybody have their little purple ribbon? You got it today? If you could wear that during the rest of this month and tell people what we do when they ask you about what does that little ribbon mean, let everybody know that help is available. I have to tell you, since I've been back on the board, it's about 3.5 years now, I think a dozen people have reached out to me and confessed they are getting battered, and how do I get help? And another one was in the last few days. By the way, look right and look left. 1 in 3 people are experiencing domestic violence. It means 1 of the 3 of you on either side of you has probably experienced it or will experience it in the future. And that is the end of my part. I just would like to ask Margot to come up here because I want to do a big thank you to her. And Margot, where are you? Oh, sorry. These bright lights, by the way, blind you. I can't see anything. So I just want to say something to Margot because she has been an extraordinary event chair. Come over here. So it's so funny. I was going to twist her arm up here, but I don't have to. I said jokingly, I'm going to say this. Are you okay with me saying it? I'm going to twist your arm and make you run the event again because I ran the last two. And it's exhausting. It's so much work. There's so much organizational acumen you have to have. And she was extraordinary, and I got very relaxed. And I actually had a little bit of a life. So I really appreciate you. So thank you for your leadership and your courage to do this. And she said yes to chairing it again next year. Please give her a big hand. Sure. Wait 1 second, I'm gonna do one more thing. We're supposed to give this to each other, so here. Oh. Okay. Good job. Okay. One more acknowledgement, by the way. I have the most wonderful dermatologist. Don't I look good? Look good? Okay. Dr. Pototskin and Monica Breyer. These are my two doctors. And Sheila, by the way, their marketing director, just did an event for us recently. We got a big chunk of the proceeds of their full day. And he has done this for us how many times now? The other two? Three or four? And by the way, all you have to do is ask, and he says yes. You're much like Marshall Servetnik. You always say yes. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And they just presented us, or you said you haven't mailed it yet? Yeah? Okay. He's about to mail us a check for $4,100 from that day. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you guys again for coming. It has been a wonderful lunch. It's been a powerful lunch. Jennifer, thank you for speaking. I think that we'll take your words with us the rest of the day. Thank you all for coming. Your donations are so much appreciated, and they go for wonderful programs here at Stand. There are a few people that I want to kind of go off script and thank, and we would not have had such a wonderful program today without them. That's Rhonda James here, our CEO. We have Melissa somewhere back here. She's staff here at Stand. And Miranda. Kitty Cole, of course, always just an integral part of the team, and we really couldn't have done it without you guys. So thank you so much. So we hope to see you guys here, same spot, next year, October 17th, 2019. Thank you all.